So, hello, Sarah. Thank you for joining me today. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name's Lucy Hawkins. I work for the Strategy Unit and have been Programme Manager for the Population Health Management Support Programme in the Midlands. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you very much for having me. So my name is Sarah Culkin. I'm the interim head of the Analytics unit within NHSX. So NHSX was established probably coming up to a year ago now, and the aims of the Analytics unit is not simply to have a team to do analysis for teams within NHSX, but we absolutely have as one of our main priorities to try to improve the appetite, capacity, use of data and analytics across the whole of the NHS.
That's great. So yeah, really glad to have you with us today. So we're talking about how can we improve the use of analysis and analysts in health and care. So why do you think that analysis is important for decision makers in health and care?
I think if you'd have asked me this a few months ago, I'd have come up with all kinds of things about why it's important to have good data and information for decision makers. But I think that there has not been a better example than the recent past and our response to COVID-19 in showing us how important having access to good quality data and then having access to teams who can shape that information. Our stock as analysts has never been higher, and I think that it just perfectly exemplifies how crucial it is to have access to the information and data that you need to inform decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen in the news and in both our work the importance of that use of data and analysis. Can you think of any kind of specific examples of how it's being kind of well used and what kind of structures are enabling that, particularly?
So speaking from the centre, we have seen a huge interest in both the collation and displaying of data, but also more than that, actually really getting to grips with the modelling, short-term forecasts, using novel sources of data and actually the power of linking all these bits of data together to understand an end-to-end process. And that's really being driven by senior colleagues, and I think this is not a new idea, but it is perfectly shows how important it is to have that really sort of senior sponsorship driving things. And I think it's interesting to see this distinction emerge between not just please can you provide us with some figures, but actually please can you help us shape our programme through your understanding of evaluation skills. Please can you actually produce models and forecasts for us. There's actually a lot more demand for some of the more sophisticated or perhaps niche analytical skills rather than perhaps just the more traditional providing of information that we've perhaps previously seen as a focus. So it has been really good to see.
Yeah, that's great. And would you say that through that there's also been a kind of building of relationships between the analysts and these kind of the people asking for the analysis?
Absolutely, as you would expect, the more you can show the value, the more people ask for it, the more people have faith in the products that you provide to them and become increasingly reliant on them. And so that incremental approach really works well, I think.
Great. And what do you think, kind of, obviously we're in exceptional circumstances, but what do you think some of the kind of challenges have been in this way of working, and how do you think we can kind of continue the good work going forward?
So as I say, the stock of analysts has never been higher. Our ability to provide high quality, reliable, accurate information is absolutely crucial. And so whilst having that spotlight shone on us is brilliant, I guess the crucial thing is to be able to keep maintaining that quality when there is a huge volume of work coming our way, lots and lots of different questions. Things are always changing. We're starting to use new data sources. We're starting to use new techniques. And so it's important that we, I guess, keep on top of making sure that we can keep the quality there in both the data that we're getting, the checks that we put on it, and then the assurance that we do to make sure that our work is good.
No, great. And so moving on to thinking about kind of the capacity of analysts and the kind of development of analysts within the health and care community. Sort of how have you seen, so from your own experience, how have you seen that kind of done well, and how would you like that to kind of develop moving forward?
So like I say, I think the development analysts, when we say analysts, I think if we're not careful, we just think of them as one just sort of generic group. And actually within analysis and sort of people that work with data, there are so many different roles. And I think it's really important, and I think it works well when those different roles and different members of the team are appreciated. And I think that is something that I would like to see going forward, a better appreciation, and perhaps even just as simple as definition of the different types of role there are within data and analysis. So like I say, I've seen some really great examples of where people are building some amazing dashboards, some amazing visualizations, but then within that there's a team that's providing forecasts, which is an entirely separate skill, but that they can then be displayed, in a very user-friendly way on a dashboard. So to get to that point, we've used the skills of a user researcher. So again, another type of analytical skill where they can perform interviews or put together workshops to really draw out the requirements of key customers. We've seen people who've got amazing skills around planning analytical evaluations, and having them at the start of a project has really proved to have huge value in actually planning out that project and ensuring it is a success. And then of course behind the scenes, don't get me started on the amazing work of data engineers and the data managers. And we would be nothing if we didn't have that data flowing through to us. And the more that we can have that flowing and linked and safe, and the IG side of things, all of these different people are absolutely vital. And if we can recognise them and all their own individual talents, I think that's when analysis works well. And I think that's how we can improve the sort of analysis and use of data to going forward.
That's great. And I think definitely that recognition of all the different skills and the roles is so important, because yes, from our own team's experience, we kind of think of it as somebody who just crunches numbers, but actually that expanding role. Just to pick up on your kind of final point about data flowing and kind of thing, again, is that something that you think's improved during the current situation, and is that something that is still kind of a bit of a barrier to planning in health and care?
It is always a challenge, and there are good reasons for those challenges in a lot of the cases. Sometimes there's not good reasons, and I think it has improved from where I have sat. There has been this understanding of this urgent need and this genuine balancing of risk versus benefit. And so I do think it is improving, and I do think that the more that we can use data safely, successfully, but show real impact, I think the more it reassures people that it can be done. And so again, incrementally, I genuinely hope things will improve. Yeah,
definitely. So I think, so for my final question, it was just thinking back to your role with NHSX and kind of your ambition for the team and for the use of analysis. What would you like to see over the next year? Kind of what would you like to see change? What would you like to see happen? What would you like to see?
Gosh, what a question. So I think that there are a few key things here that I've kind of alluded to already, and I think my two big things are the different levels that analysts are represented at. So essentially a lot more analysts in senior positions, but not just very senior positions. I'd like to see representation and roles for different analysts in all levels of the organisation, and I think that would also perhaps be benefited by having very senior figureheads in the central organisations as well. Something like sort of a head of profession or a chief analyst for NHS analysts, and then within that, actually all the things that kind of the flow to make this a profession. And I guess the second side of the thing, the question is, as well as having analysts represented at different levels, and for there to be data literacy and appetite for using data among other managers, colleagues, people in senior positions. The other side of it is the different sort of flavours of analyst, and being able to actually have clear sort of definitions of roles and descriptions. And you know, these things do exist. I know that the GDS have put together a DDAT framework, a digital data and technology framework for lots of different roles and different levels within digital data and technology. And I think that is the sort of thing I think would work well, but perhaps more bespoke to health and care. So really being able to see all different flavours and levels of analysts represented, I think will really help to improve our visibility.
Mm. So before we end, is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of kind of this agenda, the idea of an analyst revolution, or do you think you've kind of said everything that you're happy to say?
I think that an analyst revolution is well overdue. So it's fantastic that hopefully it's going to happen now.